Good evening, and thank you for watching. My name is Rachel Leingang, the co-founder of the Arizona Agenda newsletter on Substack, and I'll be the moderator for tonight's Q&A. The Citizens Clean Elections Commission is the sponsor of this event. As the state's voter education agency, Clean Elections hosts debates, so voters have the opportunity to hear directly from the candidates, ask questions on the issues that matter most to them, and vote informed. Candidates that have a contested general election have been invited to participate in the debate. The questions that will be asked this evening are coming directly from voters. Leading up to the debate, Clean Elections conducted outreach to voters across the state, asking for questions for the candidates. Additionally, Clean Elections surveyed voters to learn what issues are important to them. This survey data, along with input from the experienced journalists at the Arizona Capitol Times, Arizona Agenda, and Green Valley News and Sahuarita Sun, have been utilized to guide the discussion so it best serves voters. Of course, we want to hear directly from you, the voter. So, for voters that are watching this debate live, you can submit a question at any time by email to debates@kc-a.com, text 480-808-1814, or call 480-937-1253. Please specify if your question is for a specific candidate. We screen questions for clarity to eliminate duplications, speeches, or personal attacks. The debate tonight is scheduled for about 30 minutes, so we may not get to all audience questions, but we will do our best. Tonight's format is a Q&A with Mr. Alan Smith, the Democrat running for Arizona Senate in Legislative District 15. His opponent declined the debate invitation. Mr. Smith will give you 1 minute for your opening and closing statements and 1 to 2 minutes for responses to questions. But we'll keep it pretty casual. I may limit responses for time management purposes. And we remind everyone that this is a respectful, courteous, and professional environment. Our goal tonight is to connect voters and candidates so that our electorate may vote informed. The floor is yours for an opening statement, Mr. Smith.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you to Arizona Clean Elections. And thank you, Rachel, for moderating today. I understand you're with the Arizona Agenda, and appreciate you guys very much for doing this. My name is Alan Smith, and I'm running for Legislative District 15 for State Senate. And my background is that I graduated from college, University of Iowa, with a Bachelor of Business Administration in Finance. I'm married to Karen, my wife of 40 years, and we have 3 sons, and I have 6 grandchildren. So I am retired. I retired about 3 years ago, and I decided to run for this office when I saw that there was no Democrat in the race opposing Jake Hoffman, my opponent. So my experience is that I've been an insurance auditor. I've been in the insurance industry for 38 years. I worked in several different locations with increasing responsibility at each stop. So it's all been in the West, which is great. I started in Iowa, moved to Utah, California, Colorado. There was back to Iowa, and then ended up down here in Arizona. So that's a little bit about my career. I've never held political office before, and I want to be your citizen legislator. I want to work for you, the voter, not for special interests. My background is in politics, as I've just helped friends get elected to office. I called and canvassed for Kirsten Sinema and Mark Kelly here recently. I've also been active on nonprofit boards or associations, and I'm the past president of the Quad Cities Insurance Auditors Association, the past president of the Rocky Mountain Insurance Auditors Association, past president of the Insurance Auditors Association of the West, and was a vice president on the National Society of Insurance Premium Auditors, including winning their highest award, the Dana Sparrow Award. Currently, I'm on the board of Walking Down Ranch. It's a 501c3 nonprofit that helps homeless veterans. And there, my main function is doing grant writing. So I've had plenty of experience on boards, but no elected. I've had no elected position before. My priorities are Arizona priorities. Number one, I believe that democracy is threatened with the election deniers, and that Arizona voters voted, and dedicated Arizona employees counted the votes. And there's winners and losers, and the candidates need to learn to accept that and not criticize the election process. I am pro-choice. I'm sorry, I'm pro-choice. And so I support women's reproductive rights, women's rights. It's their life, it's their body, and they are the ones that make the decision, not a legislature. I'm for common sense gun legislation. I am for strong, fully funded public schools. I'm against the voucher program. I want to retain early and mail-in voting. My opponent is against both. He wants day of election voting, and I do not. I love voting at home at the dining table and researching the different initiatives, for example, where you got to maybe have to do some research. So, and then I'm for infrastructure improvements here in Arizona. So I've been out canvassing. I listen to the people that I'm talking to out there, and I've also seen there have been some polls on what's important here in Arizona, and those are some of the things I stand for, and those are what will guide me in my legislative career here in Arizona Senate.
So your district is Republican leaning. How
Yes.
do you, as a Democrat, first of all, do you think you can, forge a coalition of people who can get you into office? And how do you, tell your story to people who are not of your party?
Okay, well, I've been very well received, first of all, in my district. You're absolutely right. It is Republican leaning. Donald Trump won by 20 points in my district. So, and that might have had something to do why there was no candidates put up by the Democrats in this district. But I am being very well received, and I say that even by Democrats and Republicans, but certainly by independents. They like my stance that I take on democratic, on that democracy is threatened with the election deniers, and women's reproductive health care has been a very hot button issue for them. So we're canvassing out there, calling voters, and after what happened in Kansas, a very conservative state with the women's abortion rights, that I feel that we will gather the votes needed to make the difference. The main thing for me is getting my name out there through these calls and canvassing and ads and so on, texts, and that's going pretty well. But I need to do more. I wasn't on the ballot at the beginning of the primary process, so I was a write-in candidate who had to qualify in the primary with a certain number of votes, and I got triple the number of votes needed to get on to the general election ballot with a D Democrat after my name.
You've mentioned access to abortion, and I'm wondering, do you believe that there should be any parameters to abortion or any restrictions to abortion, or how do you view that issue?
Well, it's a woman's health care issue. It's between her and her doctor. So, most abortions, like 99% of abortions, are done before 20 weeks. But I would not put a date or a number on it, because it comes down to the woman and her doctor and what they decide they need to do in each pregnancy situation. Certainly you could have something come up on week 22 or week 28, and where the fetus may not survive outside the womb. or if there's genetic testing that shows that there's just going to be a lifetime of, of trouble that, a woman may not want to have. So I am not for setting any numbers or parameters on it. It's a woman's choice. It's between her and her doctor.
You also mentioned school choice issues, and for the viewers, Arizona has empowerment scholarship accounts that allows students to use taxpayer money that would ordinarily go to a public school to attend a private school instead. And this year, lawmakers opened that up to all Arizona students. And currently, education advocates are attempting to refer that law to the ballot, as they did with a similar law in 2018 that was then defeated. I'm wondering, do you support ESAs in any way? Do you think there should be available to any students? And then would you vote to eliminate it altogether if you could?
I would probably vote to eliminate it altogether. I am not for ESAs at all. It is not a school choice. You have school choice in public schools. If you don't like your local school, you can go to another public school. You may have to drive your child to that school, but we do have public school choice. So it's not a choice issue. Already they've had a bunch of people sign up for the new expanded voucher program. And 75% of those had their children already in private schools. They were already paying the full load on their children to be in that private school. So if you just do the math out on that, we're talking children that have never been in public schools that we're now going to be subsidizing the parents who can already afford to pay for private schools. And so I am totally against that, especially with no accountability. My opponent was one of those that fully supported vouchers, and he at the last minute took the accountability out of the bill. So there is no bill, and he said that the government has no right to see what private schools are doing with their finances. Well, excuse me, it is public money, and we would have to know what's going on with that money. But I am totally against vouchers, and I've been collecting signatures as well to get the initiative stopped, or to get the bill stopped and refer it to an initiative on the ballot in November of 2024. So totally against vouchers.
Sticking in the education sphere, do you know how many or how much teachers in your local district earn? And then how much do you think teachers should be paid?
I don't know the exact number. I know that they are poorly paid when compared to their peers across the country, that we are near the bottom of the pay scale across the country. And our sizes are too big. So it needs to be improved. I don't know what number that is. It's always nice to shoot for the median price or pay level for the teachers. But I mean, our cost of living isn't similar to a Connecticut or a New York or even a California. So you got to take into account the cost of living. It's gone up quite a bit here of late, but we are still a lower cost region to live in. So I can't put a number on it, but it definitely needs to be increased.
You mentioned gun safety in your opening as well. What is your plan to curtail gun violence in Arizona?
Well, first of all, we need to have full background checks and get rid of the gun show loophole. That's ridiculous. I mean, the U.S. Congress just passed a bill, and the gun show loophole is still there. It's also there for personal sales. That there's no background checks on personal sales. If I sell a gun to you, there's no check on that at all. And we need to have checks on that. And I would recommend that we do it through certified or licensed gun dealers for any change of ownership of a gun. And so we should have that. I believe in licensing. I think like a hunting license or a barber or a beautician or anything like that, they have to get licenses. If you want to own a gun, I believe you should have a license and gun safety training. I believe in safe, secure. Guns should be secure in a home. They should not be available to the children of the family at all. And then what else? I mean, it just goes on. It's just common sense legislation that I believe we need on gun safety. I mean, people will say we don't have it. Well, obviously you can't take a gun on a plane. I mean, machine guns are illegal. I'm against the large magazines. You know, those are not hunting guns. Those guns, that AR-15 type assault rifles, are for killing people. They are not hunting guns.
What about like guns in schools? Do you support, I guess, arming teachers or other like school safety measures? What are some of your ideas for that arena of gun safety?
Absolutely not on arming teachers. I mean, if you had an armed teacher, she's already going to be outgunned if it's an AR-15 brought to class and she's got a 9mm. We're not going to be equipped teachers with AR-15s and protective vests. So no, there's no place for guns to be in school at all. None.
Let's turn to the economy. So here in Arizona, we've seen some of the largest inflation rates. Gas prices are decreasing a little, but still high. And housing, obviously, housing affordability is a major issue for voters here. How do you address those sort of kitchen table economic issues as a lawmaker?
Yeah, prices are up, no question about it. The cost of living has gone up here in Arizona. I am glad to see the price of gasoline coming down, but compared to some other states, it is still high. So I would have a hearing on why the prices remain so high in the Phoenix metro area when you can go over to New Mexico and see gas for under $3. And it's, still, I just saw 409 the other day when I was down in Santan Valley. So, we need to look at that. I don't know what regulations there are. I understand our gasoline, for instance, comes from California or Texas. And when it comes from California, it may be a bit more expensive, but I would like to find out why that is and why it's so high. As for housing, I'm for affordable housing. I know the state has a $50 million program in place to help build affordable housing stock here in Arizona. I mean, our growth is tremendous here. The number of people coming here is huge, and so the housing demand has gone way up, and landlords are taking advantage of it. I mean, I've heard of some outrageous rent increases that have occurred in apartment rent. And, I don't know what the answer is, but I will certainly look at other states and see what they do. Look at New York. I know they have rent control there. I don't know what they have in California, but I'm sure there's other states that have faced the same issue. And I would learn from them and from the social scientists and the experts and find out what there is that we can do. As to your other issues with inflation, I mean, part of it's been the supply chain that broke down during COVID, and we never got it fully set back up when the COVID was pretty much over. And with the number of people going back to work, huge job growth that we've had, that the demand has been back high, and when the demand is high and the supply is low, prices will go up. So I think that will catch up, and we'll catch that up, and we'll see some lowering of prices. They're already seeing that in the apartments for rental. So I think we'll see it on commodities as well.
This is growth related, of course, but our water supply from the Colorado River has been severely curtailed due to the ongoing drought. Where and how do you think we could find, more water supply? And then what role should conservation play into this as well? Okay,
well, I think conservation will be the number one thing we could do to have more water supply. The state has funds. I don't know what kind of inspectors we have, but we need to inspect our water lines, see how much they're leaking, and get those leaks fixed. We need to know how much water is being pumped out of the ground. We don't know how much is being pumped out of the ground. We have some areas, I think there's 5 water management areas in the state, but the rest of the state, the other 80+% of the state is unregulated. And we need to find out what that water is going. There is a cost to water, and we need to be very careful with it. We also could do some things with agriculture, that we could get some grants to agriculture and help assist them with watering in a way that uses less water than flood irrigation. So there's micro irrigation that we can do that's been found successful in Israel and other dry states. So I see that we could probably find another 30% of water supplies just through conservation. So I'm totally for conservation. I lived in Colorado for a while. We had a drought over there, and they did some PSAs and some regulations, and residential changes were made that you couldn't wash your car between 10 and 6 p.m., that you couldn't water your lawn for the same time frame. And because when you're spraying the water up in the air, it evaporates. It's not getting back to where it needs to be. So definitely through some residential PSAs, public service announcements, we could make a difference there as well.
Let's move to immigration. So we've seen several different ways that the Ducey administration has tried to, put in shipping containers at the border, or, busing migrants to the East Coast. What do you think that the state's role is or should be in managing the border and immigration?
Well, it's really a federal situation, in that it's a federal border, it's a national border. And so the federal government really needs to have immigration reform and really get in there and give a path to citizenship, to give visas to farm workers. Our farmers and ranchers need help with their crops, and they're unable to get staffing because of the problems that we're having. As to the borders, the shipping containers, it's kind of a stopgap thing. The government really needs to, we've got over 60,000 Border Patrol agents. So, not just in Arizona, but nationwide. And we really need to be using them and have them supplemented with electronic, type of devices that would help us keep track on the border as well. We need a path to citizenship for our DACA students, the Dreamers. They really need to have a path to citizenship. So I don't know, what was it? Did I answer?
You answered it. Yeah, you're good. What are there any policies that have been enacted by the Ducey administration or the legislature in recent years that you agreed with, that you thought were good policies?
Boy, I can't think of any right off my head right now, but this legislature's been, in place for, I don't know, over 20 years with Republicans, could be 40 years. I don't know how far back it goes, but they've got us to this situation where we're at. We have plenty of Arizona problems to work on, and yet the Republican legislature seems to be worried about voting, and they worried about women's reproductive rights. They're not working on Arizona problems. They're working on their own pet projects.
Do you think that there is a need for, I guess, lessening the impact of money in politics or the impact of lobbyists in the legislature? Are those sort of, transparency issues important to you, or how would you manage that?
Absolutely, they're important. We need, we got it on the ballot this year with an initiative to stop dark money. And I really hope voters will get behind that. It's been a battle to get that on to the ballot, and they finally got it through, and we get to vote on it. And I think that'll be a great help to release who is behind some of these ads, especially the attack ads that are just so negative and so turning off for our voters. So I am all for getting getting the transparency that we need there. As to lobbyists, you know, they need to be registered, and we need to know when our representatives are meeting with lobbyists. I would like to see. I would be transparent about that and release my schedule on any lobbyists that would want to call on me, and let the public know, you know, what we're talking about, who I'm talking to, for sure.
Do you think that lawmakers need better ethics rules or conflict of interest rules?
Absolutely. That would be my first bill that I would want to support, would be a new ethics bill for the state Senate.
What would it entail?
Oh my gosh. I understand that they have one now, but it's fairly weak. And for instance, legislators don't recuse themselves from issues that they have a direct hand in financially. And we need to stop that. That is ridiculous that they are voting on industry that they're making money from. That is so wrong.
So if you're elected, how would you work with the other party? If, you know, all things being equal, at the very least, our legislature is always going to be somewhat close, as it has been in recent years. How do you make sure that you're able to work with the other side of the aisle?
Well, I'm always ready to listen. I mean, democracy is really built on compromise. I mean, everybody doesn't get everything that they want. You know, there's winners and losers on you know, parts of bills that come in and will get settled. I mean, we're all for water, better water planning and conservation. So Republicans should have, you know, that affects the future of our state. One thing I really don't like is the Freedom Caucus that has come into play here in Arizona now. And that's where the legislators get get together, and they vote as a block, and they will not compromise. They will not cross the line. They just are dead set against anything. That will make it very difficult if that Freedom Caucus is brought into the Senate. My opponent is the head of Freedom Caucus here, and they have it in the state house, but they don't have it in the state Senate right now. So I would really hate to see it come to Arizona in the state Senate. I'm really disappointed it's here already.
I think that's all the time we've got for questions. So I'll give you 2 minutes here to, you know, give a closing statement and tell voters anything you'd like to close with.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you again, Arizona Clean Elections. I really appreciate you, and Rachel Langang. I really appreciate you for being the moderator. Thank you very much. It's been quite a journey getting here to this point. Like I said earlier, I ran in the primary as a write-in. I had no plans to vote, or no plans, I'm sorry, to run for office this cycle. I was all ready to support the candidates, but our Democratic Party put up nobody. So if not me, who? So I am running on Democratic and on Arizona priorities, and that, you know, I really want to make a difference here in the legislature. I want to leave it better than I find it now. So I'm running on women's rights. My opponent wants to ban abortions nationwide. He wants to do away with early and mail-in voting. We need a democracy that works, and we don't need it all locked up. So I really could use your support in November. I need to get my name out there a little better, and hopefully this will be part of that. But thank you very much. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. This concludes our Q&A for the evening. To our candidate here, we thank you so much for participating. To the voters, we thank all of you who took the time to watch the debate and inform yourselves before the November 8th general election. As a reminder, the voter registration deadline is October 11th, and early voting begins October 12th. All registered voters can participate in the general election. We encourage you to visit azcleanelections.gov for official, accurate voting information. Have a good evening.